So today's video is about things that consistent training builds that aren't physical. So what I mean by that is things that you normally would acquire over time from consistently training your body, working out, exercising consistently, and building your body up physically. First thing, number one, is confidence. I will say one of the main things that has helped me build my confidence, even from when I was a kid up until now, was putting on muscle. When I was a kid, I didn't really lift weights like that, especially like elementary, middle school time. I didn't really start lifting weights at least a little bit until like my 7th, 8th grade year of middle school. But up until then, all throughout elementary, all the way up and through middle school, I did a lot of calisthenics, or in other words, body weight movements. So push-ups, squats, sit-ups, any type of ab work that I could find on YouTube. I tried it and did as much of it as I could. I remember when I first got my pull-up bar, I could only do like maybe 2 or 3 pull-ups, but I was very consistent with it. Over time, I just thought to myself, okay, I can only do 3 now, but I was so just driven to be able to do more of them because, as a kid, I'm on YouTube looking at guys do, 15, 20, 25 pull-ups, and I'm like, I want to get there, you know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I'm one of those people that wants to strive to be the best that I can be. So if I'm able to do 2 or 3, that's not enough to me. I feel like I want to do more. I want to, continue to progress. So I started with 2 and 3, and then every single day, every time I thought about it, I would do 2 or 3 pull-ups until 2 or 3 pull-ups began to get really easy. So then I eventually was able to do 5 pull-ups. The more you do it, you stick to it, eventually it gets easy, then you go up a couple numbers. So I went from like 3 to 5 to 8 to eventually being able to do 12, just continue to progress to the point where I was able to do 20. By the time I got to the end of my middle school career, I was able to do 20, 22, almost 25 pull-ups, strict, nice and controlled pull-ups, because I did them so often. And that's part of what training does, is it doesn't always have to be super intense, but if you stick with something that's challenging long enough, eventually it becomes easy and you begin to see that you're now able to move on to the next thing, and that shows that you've grown from where you currently were. The next thing I would say that is something that you build over time is dedication. Training requires you to be dedicated in order to see results, right? You do it long enough, that takes dedication for you to come into the gym or into your workout room. Like I have here, I have a workout room that I come to, and my goal is to be dedicated to being in this room, dedicated to training, dedicating my time, my effort, and my energy to training and making my body change. Same thing for any individual that just wants to continue to be active. Your thing might not be your physical appearance, but it could be some internal things like heart health or lung health, or just your internal health overall. So when you look at how training can really affect not only your outside, but your inside, it takes dedication. You work out one time here and there, that's not very much of you being dedicated to that task at hand in order to see the goal that you desire, right? Number 3, it's kind of in the title, but it builds consistency. And I will say in other terms, it builds your muscle, or it builds your consistency muscle, right? Building your consistency muscle, I feel like transfers over to other areas in life, because if you can dominate and be consistent at one thing, that should be proof to yourself that you can be consistent at other things in your life. There's something in your life that you're really consistent at, whether it's calling your friend, talking to someone on the phone, getting on social media, you're very consistent at it. That consistency from training carries over to other things that you want to be consistent at. Should I say the things that you're consistent in life, you have to figure out how to carry that over to training, or how to discipline yourself. If I had to rank any of these in order, this one would probably be close to the top 3. And I will say that it builds patience. Training your body builds patience, because your body doesn't just change because you just want it to change. You have to be patient with the process. I'm gonna say that one more time. You have to be patient with the process. You can't just allow yourself to become overwhelmed and frustrated because you worked out for 2 weeks and you think your body is just going to be, oh, I should be seeing some change by now. Well, let's think of in a scientific basis, Most times you won't see results slightest bit of result, you won't really see it until about 3-4 weeks in. It usually takes about 3-4 weeks for you to even start to feel it. You're gonna feel your body sore, but I'm talking about actually seeing a physical difference in your body. Some people, it's a range. It varies from person to person. Somebody might see a greater progression from when they started 2-3 weeks in versus someone else. It really just depends on the effort that you put in, how consistent, and are you being intelligent with your programming? How are you scheduling? How are you putting together your workouts? The next thing I would say that it builds, this is number 5 right here. This is number 5, is work ethic. Training your body helps you build up your work ethic. It's not easy to do a squat when your legs already feel like tired. They feel tight, they feel sore, right? You're not gonna really feel like doing another squat if they already feel that way. But in order for you to push past that, you have to really have these other things. You have to be confident that you can continue going forward. You have to be dedicated to it. You have to be consistent. You have to be patient, and that helps build work ethic because now you have a thing what they call delayed gratification. You're okay with not seeing the results right away. You're okay with the fact that you being satisfied with where you are or seeing the satisfaction of what you put in is not going to come right away. It's delayed because it takes time. Number 6, the 6th thing that consistent training builds that isn't physical is accountability, or should I say self-accountability, right? Because it's up to you to hold yourself accountable to continue training. And if you don't continue training, what happens is you're not holding yourself accountable to the fact that, hey, I have to be consistent and patient and be dedicated to this in order for me to hold myself accountable. So just think of it in terms of, if you're going to hold yourself accountable, what do you have to do? One way you can do that, block out time in your calendar. We all have smartphones nowadays. Look at your calendar, literally write in and time block the amount of time you would usually use to work out. That's what I do personally because it really helps me to stay consistent. Yes, we're very intelligent, but why put more load on our brains to try to remember to do things when I can just use this technology to my advantage so my brain doesn't have to hold on to so much. And there's certain things that are just like repetitive. You still have the calendar. What I do is I put reminders on my calendar so it reminds me 30 minutes ahead of time, 15 minutes at a time, or whatever amount of time you really need in advance, because I like to give myself time for my mind to make that transition over from just doing what I'm doing throughout the day to actually pushing my body. And then also it gives me time to get my workout clothes on, my shoes tied, and kind of take a couple sips of water. Anything that's going to help you to hold yourself accountable, you should use it. And technology is a big one at holding yourself accountable. You got reminders, you got your calendar, you can set timers. That's another great way, is whatever let's say for instance you want to walk on the treadmill 3 times a week. Well, to hold yourself accountable, you say, hey, I'm going to use a time frame that I know I can do over and over again. So let's say for instance you start off with 15 or 20 minutes. You get on the treadmill, start it up, get your timer ready, start the timer, and then you just walk for 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes, right? It could be 15, it can be 10, but make it something manageable. Don't make it so hard to the point where you get to that day and you're like, I gotta walk for 20 minutes. If you feel like that, that means you need to reduce the time down to about 10 minutes. Reduce it down to an amount that's still gonna be, appropriate. Don't make it 5 minutes. Make it somewhat like 10 minutes, something of that nature. But then again, maybe you need to have it at 5 minutes. 5 minutes may work for some. 5 minutes might be too little to almost nothing for some others. But you have to make it somewhat challenging for yourself, but also make it something that you don't mind doing frequently and over again, because eventually that 5-10 minutes, it's gonna become routine, and you're no longer gonna really accept yourself doing 5 or 10 minutes. Then you might ramp it up to 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 25, then eventually you get 30. So keeping it around that range really helps. Number 7, it's focus. Your ability to focus on the task at hand and not become easily distracted. When you're working out, sometimes people listen to music, sometimes people watch a show on their phone, sometimes people watch TV. You know what? All of those things can be helpful depending on your personality and how you operate. For me, I've noticed that if I'm doing resistance training, having something visual to look at is distracting versus walking on a treadmill or on a stationary bike. Having something visual to distract me while I continue going is a good thing, especially if you're just trying to get in a little bit of movement. I'll just say this, if you want to increase your intensity, you're going to need to have more focus on what you're doing. When I think about getting on maybe an elliptical, a treadmill, anything that's sitting in one spot, you're not really moving around, like you're indoors, having something visual can kind of be helpful to distract yourself so you can continue going forward. Yeah, those are 7 points that I feel like you build over time through consistent training that aren't physical. Because a lot of times we think about training our bodies, working out, exercise, and we think, okay, it's just all physical things. But there's a lot of it that's very much mental. And there's plenty of things outside of those 7 that you build over time through consistent training. So what I'll say is, let me know in the comments some other things that you feel like a person would build over time that aren't physical from consistent training. Because I know there's some things that I left out, but let me know in the comments, and I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.